Okay, 8th grade, so we are back in our writing packet today. It's Wednesday. So we're getting into, obviously, I didn't really touch on this yesterday, but this is our last full week of e-learning. But we do have to be here on Tuesday of next week. So we have this full week and then Tuesday of next week, just because we have to get in all of our required days of school. So we're in our writing packet today on page 25. So, as always with the writing packet, we start out with the journal entry where you need to write one paragraph or 5 to 7 sentences here. So, here it asks you, imagine you've signed up to be one of the first tourists to travel to space. Write a narrative describing your preparation and takeoff. Use language that connects to the 5 senses as you describe your experience. So we wrote a personal narrative at the very, in January, at the very beginning of this semester. So that's just where you're writing it as if it's a story about what happened. So if you were one of the first tourists to travel to space, describe yourself preparing and then describe taking off and use language that connects to the 5 senses. So what are the 5 senses, not sentences? The 5 senses are sight, taste, smell, sound, and touch. So describe how you're experiencing those 5 different things during this scenario. So this is like a fiction piece. It's not meant to be true. So you need to write at least 5 to 7 sentences on this one, but it's probably going to take you a little bit more than that. Excuse me, which is okay. So you guys will do that on your own as always, but we're going to move on to page 26 together. So today we're going to be talking about using verbs for effect. So we've been talking a lot about verbs, but more in the sense of verbals. So this is a verb. A verb is what you're doing in the sentence. It's an action that's happening. So writers think carefully about the verb mood and the voice that they use. Each choice provides a different effect. So the voice that they use would be how they are writing in the sentence, and it'll explain this a little bit when we look at these examples. So for effect, it says use the active voice to emphasize the person doing the action. So Molly the collie, ran through the obstacle course with no problem. So she actively ran through the obstacle course. Passive voice is when the doer of the action is not important or known. So she was defeated at the last minute. So we don't know who she is. So she was defeated. When we put that was word in there, it seems more passive than as if she was actually doing it, right? So someone else defeated her. So she was served with the action of being defeated. She did not defeat anyone, if that makes sense. So use the subjunctive mood to express a wish, a suggestion, or something contrary to fact. Contrary to fact would be something that were the opposite of the truth. So I wish Molly were a faster dog. So Molly's not a faster dog. They wish that she were. Okay? So were is saying she's not, but I wish she was. The other dog ran through as though he were a pup. He's not a pup. They wish he was. I suggested that the owner keep him on a leash. That's a suggestion, okay? So the first two the first one's a wish, but it's also contrary to fact because she's not a faster dog. But it's both a wish and contrary to fact. The middle one is contrary to fact. And then the last one, I suggested the owner keep him on a leash, is a suggestion. So they're using those were, and keep is the verb there, but the phrase altogether is the owner keep him on a leash. The last one is conditional mood, and this is used to express uncertainty or possibility. If Molly had been faster, she might have won. So if she had been, which is kind of partly subjunctive mood, so if she had been faster, might have won is that uncertainty or possibility. Without more practice, Molly would probably lose again. Would, again, we don't really know that she would lose again, but we think that she probably would. So let's take a look at this guided practice here together. It says rewrite the sentences in the voice or mood shown in the parentheses, which is right here. And then we're just going to discuss it together, but it says discuss with a partner the effect of changing the construction and mood of each sentence. So it says, for our hint, when a sentence is in the passive voice, the doer of the action may be the object of the preposition. A sentence in the conditional mood often includes verbs such as were and would, could, or might. Okay, so number 1 says the dogs were lined up by the trainers, and we need to change that to active voice. So here, what type of voice do we have already? Well, we see here, she was defeated at the last minute. Well, this one says the dogs were lined up by the trainers. So right now, we have a passive voice. So we need to change it to active voice. Well, what's the difference between passive and active? Well, active is the people that are doing the action are at the beginning. So Molly the collie ran through the obstacle. This one is something else that is having the action done to them is at the beginning. So the dogs were being lined up. So the dogs are what's having the action done to them. Now, who's lining up the dogs? The trainers. So instead, we would put trainers at the beginning. So it would be the trainers lined up the dogs. And that's changed to active voice. Because we're just switching the order in which we see those people and then taking out that were. Because the trainers are just lining up the dogs. Okay, my dog was afraid and I wish he wasn't. We need to change this to subjunctive. So, if we're wishing that he was doing something, well, if we look up here at the subjunctive example, I wish Molly were a faster dog. So we need to start with I wish. And then what does she wish that her dog was? So her dog was afraid. She wishes he wasn't. So she wishes her dog was not afraid, right? So I wish my dog were not afraid. Okay? So it's my dog was afraid. And I wish that he wasn't. Okay? So then you change it to, I wish my dog were not afraid, because the subjunctive is talking about expressing a wish, a suggestion, or something contrary to the fact. So we need to start with, I wish. Another dog pushed him off the course. Passive is what we need to change this to. So right now we have it in active voice. Another dog pushed him off the course. And him is who? That person's dog, right? Because it's talking about their dog in these other sentences. So we would start instead with my dog, because her dog is the one who's having the action done to him, right? The other dog is the one who's actually pushing him, but he's the one who was pushed. So we would say my dog was pushed, and then it's off the course. And then who was he pushed off the course by? By another dog. So the main difference, once you can understand it, the main difference between active and passive is that active, the subject, which is at the very beginning, so the trainers are the subject here, another dog is the subject here, but in this one, obviously, this is passive voice, or this is active voice, I'm sorry. They're the ones that are doing the action. So the subject is the one doing the action, okay? Well, in this example, the dogs were lined up. The dogs aren't lining up. The dogs were lined up, but who was making them be lined up? The trainers. Okay? So this competition was suggested by a friend. Active voice. Okay, so right now it's in passive voice because the competition was being suggested by a friend who actually suggested the competition, the friend. So it would be a friend did what? Suggested. What did they suggest? The competition. The last one says, she thought my dog had the ability to do well. And we need to change this to conditional. So if we look at conditional, this is expressing uncertainty or possibility. So she thought that my dog had the ability to do well. Well, if we look over here, it often contains were, would, could, or might. So she thought my dog, what? Could do well or would have done well. So she thought my dog would have done well. And you could say could have done well. That's fine too. Any of those words really mean the same thing. So now what you guys are going to do is you're going to do page 27 here on your own. So this is just asking you which of the answers shows the effect of changing from passive to active in these first two. So I think this passive and active is one of the easier of the different verb moods and all that kind of stuff. And then for number 3, it asks you to choose the answer that best shows the effect of the sentence rewritten in the mood shown in the parentheses. So if you guys have any questions on any of this, you can get a hold of me during office hours today.